morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody feeling about Friday? So we're going to get started in just a couple minutes here. I would like to welcome you to grab a little bit of food or some coffee for breakfast. I think you all get a big gold star for making it to an extra day of programming and conversations. But this is a kind of tradition that began with the Icon last year, where we said, we spend so much time and energy to create this space. To wrap up in the morning on Friday is not enough. So we've been building this idea that we call Stay for Nature Friday sessions, where we have a full day of programming dedicated to nature on Friday. And the idea is to spread this idea across Davos so that people all across the houses, the 91 promenade pavilions that exist, will really put a focus on nature. This year, as many of you know, a lot of the nature programming and sustainability programming that has typically been within the forum has somehow mysteriously kind of vanished. So I feel like these conversations are more important than ever. And our concept for this was to invite essentially all of our friends to be able to do the hard work for us. So Oceanic Global, the World Climate Foundation, our Indigenous leadership friends, they've all put together panel discussions that can do far more than I could do to be able to educate us all. Last year, I found Friday to be personally my most satisfying and invigorating day. I came away with some ideas that we implemented within our work over the course of the year. And this year, we have over 130 people RSVP'd to attend today. Congratulations for actually making it, because I think we're getting a bit of a Friday start. But hopefully the day will continue to fill up. We're going to be filming the sessions and putting them online afterwards, so you'll have a video artifact of the day. And then we'll even be live streaming around midday with YouTube some of the sessions for our announcements of our first investments with the Ocean Climate Fund. Some of you may know, I know Leah has been a big supporter and help with us, and many of you are strategic partners for the Ocean Climate Fund. We had a breakfast at 8 o'clock this morning, and it was me and 4 of my team. So if you'll indulge me for just a brief moment, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the latest news from the Ocean Climate Fund, and we'll kind of come back to it. This is sort of like the OCF's day within hub culture. And so I'd just love to tell you a little bit of an update about the year since we were last in this room. Some of you may know that hub culture put nature on our board of directors a couple of years ago from a session that happened at the Ice House here in Davos. And by doing that, we essentially created a legal proxy layer of governance leadership for our board that essentially removed the humans from our board and put the Atlantic Ocean onto our board. Yeah, thank you. It's really happy. We're the first company to do it, but now there are 15 companies who've done similar nature on the board movements, and I encourage you all to figure out how to get a piece of nature onto your board, even if it's just one board member. But that then kicked off this real amazing exploration on oceans for us as a company, which was not an area that we had typically thought about. But now we think about our logo and who we are, and this has been always thought of as the fifth chakra for us. It's a 20-year-old logo, the hub logo. But now we really think of it as oceans as a key part of who we are. And we think of nature, infrastructure, and commons. And this building represents that same philosophy, because the building you're sitting in is a direct to-the-centimeter replication of the logo. So right now you're in the commons, we have the infrastructure, and this location is perfect for us because it's surrounded by nature. So, I think it's really beautiful that we've been able to achieve that. As Leah will know, she had an amazing event at UNOC in Cannes, and it was there that we met her friends from the Reef Line, Jimena Caminos, and others. And at UNOC in June, we had prepared our thinking around the first investment strategies of the fund. We spent our first year building community partners, so groups like the World Climate Foundation and 40 or 50 other organizations, including Oceanic Global, are community partners. So we started building community to get feedback about how and where we were going to work. And then we're now building a corporate program to begin looking at corporate dollars that can fund investments for the fund. And in June, we announced 3 funding areas of focus. The first is open ocean data, because especially with the cuts happening with NOAA and other data resources around the world, we really feel that it's important to have an open data safety net for oceans. The second is what we call blue living carbon. And this is really looking at nature-based assets and nature-based solutions for investment that can create economic return, but are also focused on saving or working on nature. And then the third is what we call blue circular economy and infrastructure. And so today we'll be announcing our first investment with that category. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek right here. This is the first project that we're doing, and we have a whole session on this at 12 o'clock. Our first investment for that is with the Reef Line out of Miami, and we're really excited about what it represents. On the ocean data front, we've been investing into a new open source technologies. So I would encourage you to visit the oceanclimatefund.com data section. There you'll find over 25 open APIs of ocean data that we're working to combine together. We've also opened a GitHub with open repositories, and we've hired developers to begin working on tying together ocean data. And so this is the ocean side. And then last night, we pretty much handshook on our first project in category 2, which is Blue Living Carbon, in a partnership with GigaBlue. They're working on blue carbon from the oceans and doing amazing work around carbon capture. And I'm happy to announce today that we're going to be offsetting the carbon emissions of all of the Davos campus with GigaBlue. And it's an extension on our work with Hedera. Thank you. Yeah, it's a net zero Davos, at least at Hub. But it's really exciting because we're using our AI to calculate the carbon emissions for scope 1, 2, and 3 using services that we built with Hedera. And those services enable us to calculate the carbon emissions of any hub. And I really encourage you guys to look at the hubs. You can open a Coral Vita hub. You can open Amazon Sacred Headwaters hub. And within that, you can actually use our calculators to track carbon emissions across almost anything you do. And our AI will then calculate the carbon footprint of that. So at least you know how much carbon you're spending on an activity. And then you can actually offset from that. And if you own forest or land, or perhaps are regenerating phytoplankton in the oceans like GigaBlue is, you actually can earn what we call oxygen credits through VEN, our digital currency, that over time can grow in value. So really, there's just so many things happening within Hub culture focused on nature and our relationship to nature. And we're really excited to have you guys here for our Nature Day. Before I go and hand it over to Leah for our first session, I want to just give you a little lay of the land. We're on like rapid fire panels until 3 o'clock. Every panel goes 30 minutes, and then there's like kind of a 5-minute break. So let's say 25 minutes with a 5-minute break for transition, and then to the next. So if you need to go to the washroom, they're out this way. If you need food or coffee, we're out this way. It's just going to be like kind of free form. We're filming everything, so you'll find it on our channels online afterwards. There will be lunch, and we're just so excited to have you guys here. So thank you very much. We had 3 big announcements from Hub, from Davos this week. The first is the Ocean Climate Fund partnership with the Reef Line, and we'll talk about that in a whole session on video at 12. But the second thing is we announced care.hub. So if you look at this building you're in, and imagine it for our moms and dads as a place to live for the 1 billion people who are going to be between the ages of 60 and 80 over the next 10 years. So we're thinking about long-term elder care, and imagine these as little studio apartments with a commons, kitchen, and collaboration area. So if any of you know people in real estate or real estate development, we want to bring the icon into new areas of use in the future. The second is .hub. We're building AI and agentic identities through Hub ID, and we're working on building .hub as a new top-level domain for the internet, and that will be gaining much more momentum in 2026. And then finally, we had a third announcement, and I can't remember what it is now. We'll have to come back to it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the third was. Fund. Hub and Care.hub. Yeah, I got them all. Okay, there we go. It's been, I don't know about you guys, it's been a long week. And I'm really happy to shut up now and hand it over to our first panel. Please welcome Leah D'Ariol from Oceanic Global.
Thank you. And Alexa, please join me too from the Naya Trust.
Should we just sit here?
Yeah, let's do it. Stan, thank you so much for sharing and creating such an intentional home for all of us. Thank you everyone for showing up on a Friday morning. This actually feels like the perfect group of people. And Stan mentioned that today we're going to be having a lot of panels, but actually we're going to kind of flip the narrative, and we really want this to be an interactive workshop where we're designing with nature and not just for nature. So we are going to involve you all in that process. This is a really beautiful project that Alexa and I actually have been discussing nearly for the last year. And we were together in Baja, Mexico at the end of last year, kind of doing the initial building blocks. So this is really the first unveiling behind this. And if we can just go to the next slide. For a little bit of background on why we came together. So I run a nonprofit called Oceanic Global. And Oceanic Global's mission is to reconnect people back to the ocean and then engage different levels of stakeholders here. So we work at a grassroots level, a business level, and an institutional level. Really, how do we bring ocean consciousness in with systemic change? And so you're going to hear a little bit about Naya's work, and you'll see really why this works so beautifully and the kind of common threads.
Hi, everyone, and what an amazing place to be having this conversation about the commons and representing nature, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Alexa Firmenich, the founder of Naya Trust. We're a Swiss family office investing in the survivability and thrivability of life and nature across economics, governance, consciousness, large landscape restoration, all the good things that I think many people in this room are doing. Should I go to the next slide? No. Yeah. So, as Leah mentioned, this arose principally out of a friendship and deep care for oceans and for whales. Both of us have had profound experiences locking eyes with whales and swimming with these ancient beings of our planet. And part of what Naya's work is doing, and also Oceanic, is how do we put nature at the center of conversations and create new governance and financial architectures where the stakeholders that are the living beings of our planet are actually the ones we're representing. So what we're presenting today, we imagine can be like a framework or an architecture that here we're discussing whales, but it could be other keystone beings, other keystone ecosystems, and we'd like to offer this to the commons as an approach that maybe you could replicate in your own geographies for other ecosystems. And the advantage that we have as a family foundation is we can seed strange and radical things, and if it works, and things won't work, and we get to be experimental, and I think that's what a lot of this is about. I don't know if you want to add anything to that piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it's been interesting to kind of observe where the conversation is at this week, and it's, we're at these pivotal points, and the reality is we need really bold ideas, and I think this is what's so exciting about it. And when we're talking about whales, we're not just talking about one species, we're really talking about doorways into looking at the entire health of the ocean. And so this is really what makes us, really kind of get us excited on the potential here. Looking at their migratory routes, knowing the fact that they don't know borders. So we're starting to have to design local interventions on a global scale. We're going to be focusing specifically on 2 different types of species, but the reality is the interventions that we're proposing will affect all whale species and actually a lot of different ocean life. So the main 2 actually are going to be the first, the gray whales. So we mentioned we're in Baja, Mexico, which is really a key area for them. And what's so beautiful about something like the gray whales is we start to work on interventions in Baja, and it's allowing us to look at the US, Canada, all the way up to Alaska, as well as the humpbacks. So really starting to also bring in a lot of the work that's happening within the Pacific islands here too. And many people have different relationships with whales. But the reality is, we nearly wiped them out, and they are a huge sign of hope and rebound, but they are still facing critical challenges today. And the extractive pressures that we put on have just shifted. So the idea of this trust is to really use these beacons of hope to be able to address a lot of the kind of current issues, whether it's from fishing, for example, to ghost nets, to migration corridors, MPAs. What does this look like now that we have the BBNJ framework coming into effect next year, etc.?
So if you think about what the Whale Trust is, we want it to be this evergreen financial vehicle with whales as the ultimate beneficiaries. Whether it's a special purpose trust, we're not quite sure, but essentially they will be the beneficiaries of this trust. And originally we were thinking of doing a whale bond, and a whale bond will be a part of it. Yeah, let's do it. But then conversations between our teams kind of expanded, and it's like, why would we just have a bond where actually you can have a one-stop shop with a holistic ecosystem vision of what we need to reinstate the beauty, the wonder of these ocean ecosystems at a larger scale? And so we have these different SPVs, but we're calling them pods because we want to use whale language. And essentially you can imagine that you have a trust, and below it, you're an investor, you're a crowdfund, participant, whatever it may be, and there's different vehicles you can slot into philanthropically or otherwise. So one SPV could be an impact investment fund, and we're actually setting up a blended finance facility with Co-Capital, our friends in Mexico, separately to this for Baja. So there you could have different impact investments, things like blue carbon, et cetera, things that were mentioned today. We would have a philanthropic bucket, which would be more like marine protected areas, ghost nets, so on and so forth. There would be a litigation or legal pod. And in that, we're thinking a few things. We're thinking legal personhood of whales. Mexico is about to build the world's largest LNG terminal on the inside of the Sea of Cortez. And this is like the Serengeti of the ocean. And it's the place where all of the beings come to reproduce and thrive. And imagine all the tanker traffic from Asia that would come in and basically destroy this last wonder of the ocean. And so we would probably have a litigation part that you could fund that. You could fund anti-deep sea mining, which is also happening in Mexico. We would have an artists and sort of spiritual hub, and that would be things we're funding around grief circles around whales, art around whales, participatory governance, the ethics of AI around whales, and there's a lot of things we're already funding in that. And many more artistic people could basically join this pod and say, we want to do art around whales, photography, media, right? And so you would come and you'd understand that actually to support these ecosystems, you need all of these different things. And the whale bond that we'll probably structure with, well, I won't say who yet because it's not official, but that would be a more sort of traditional wildlife bond that some of you might be aware of. I think I'll leave it there for now, just in terms of time. Do you want to add anything?
Again, I think that the point that's so interesting here and the way that this is kind of designed is also making sure that we're having like a really strong bioregional approach within the different areas from a conservation lens, but we're able to stitch it together globally because that's what we're starting to see, that when these whales are migrating, we need to make sure that we're addressing these kind of key areas. So we do envision a very localized stewardship approach within this much larger framework.
I think just the last part I'll say is the whales inspired such an important movement in the 70s, right? And there's something about the whales that they're like our deepest ancestors, and we believe that as portals, they will be the sentinels that can help bring so many other people who aren't necessarily the ones in this room into this love and care for the oceans. So that's a little bit also why the whales. Is this the workshop? Oh, you were going to speak about yeah.
So we're going to enter a little workshop moment, and as we do so, we have a beautiful video playing with Jono Allen, who's sitting here, put together and shot, and I think this is just an amazing opportunity to kind of tune into like why we're doing this work, and just to kind of bring a little bit of the magic actually of these whales.
We're also about to make you guys be a whale, so start to take a deep Friday breath and get ready to embody the energy of the whales. All right, we're going to bring you guys into this now. So you're going to go into, I think, groups of 5 will make sense for this size of a room. And we're going to give you about 7 minutes. And in this group of 5, 2 roles are important. One person will speak on behalf of the whales. I love that you've put nature on your board, so this is sort of that practice. One person you guys can choose, you'll be the whale in the conversation because we're designing for whales. And if 2 people want to be whales, go ahead. We're not going to put a limit on the amount of whales, but at least one. One person will be the scribe or the person who'll come and report back to this group when we're done. And in this group of 5, you can pick one of these guiding questions, probably 1 or 2, but essentially we're asking for your feedback. How would you design this? Because we're in the design phase. We're starting to design the interventions. We're really just kicking it off. And we want to hear from people. We want to hear from the collective intelligence in this room and otherwise, and from the whales who will speak through you. So in these groups of 5, pick a question, pick 2, pick a whale or 2, and we'll give you about 7 minutes. And then we will ask each scribe to report back at the end and hear what you guys had to say. And feel free to pick apart the whole thing, right? What might work, what might not work. But that's a bit of the participatory piece. Yes, question.
Just wanting to know, there's a little bit of a stimulating caption below what we're supposed to do, but do you have something a little higher than what you're trying to create overall? Bigger picture?
You mean like the goal of the trust?
Yeah.
I'd say probably, and you'll chime in, I'd say one of the main goals of the trust is the consciousness change at the highest level. It's that people will come into contact in this day and age when there's so much crisis and doom and gloom, and even the carbon narrative can be so deadening. We want people to come into touch with something that is enlivening and beautiful, and all the communications we're already doing, it's something that feels generative and life-giving. And so, wow, we can work with these beings on behalf of them in these ways. That's the sort of first energy. Secondly, very practically, ocean restoration. So whale populations bouncing back, the reduction of harms, whatever that might come from. So we'll be designing interventions as part of the trust, but we haven't gone into that detail for this. So very practically, funding and interventions. Thank you.
Yeah, I think kind of through the lens too of how do we start to unlock capital to come into the oceans? So goal 14, life below water, is the least funded sustainable development goal. So the reality is we do need to build kind of new frameworks here. And I think this is why we're thinking about like these blended finance models too. So I think kind of keeping that in mind in terms of like what are these openings across these different verticals there.
So, I'll hand over to you. Which table would like to report back first? And just so curious to hear what people were brainstorming. And also, Leia made a good point. It can also be the whale who can speak back. It doesn't have to be the scribe person. You guys, everyone has complete artistic license. Who'd like to share? Come on. You're good?
Good morning. I'm gonna start by sharing my personal perspective, which is I don't think we did that well. I think we realized this is really complicated. We started throwing everything on the table and really thought about how to invest, create investment vehicles which change behaviors, maybe even limit consumerism, reduce consumption. We thought about the need of the whale to migrate out there, forces in the wild, but at the same time moving around our imagined communities, so politics, economy. But the whale, of course, has to move, migrate, and it's swimming in nature. But at the same time, we are aware of these other things that affect it. But I'm not sure if we came up with a great solution. That's my critique. I'd love my colleagues to speak. I think they think we did, but I didn't.
I think that was a very good, accurate technical description of what we were talking about. Thank you very much. I was thinking that, with the combination of some of the minds that just went boom, and as you were talking, I was putting this stuff that we were talking together, and it's like the whales could be represented as the politicians of the planet because they cross all boundaries. So that. Well said.
You asked a question? No. Okay, I will do it. No, at the beginning it was difficult because we were talking with a whale, and we have to. So the question was first how we can communicate together, and I think the root cause of the problem is that because we are not anymore connected to nature, we are moved to a dualism, and we have to be back to a living system. And once we are connected to the living system, I think we first apologize because we did bad things. That's the first thing, to making a compassion and gratitude about what we are doing. And then we said what we can improve to the process. So the signal was coming from the whale by itself. And he said, if it's an undressed, because we need feedback. You need feedback from the human, because human also, if you want to make this an undressed solution, you need feedback. And I said, yes, it's good, but now what we can move from the ecological scale. And I think you need to, if you are in a living system, you are interconnected. So you will work on an ecosystem and you will understand the emergence of the solution. So don't worry about that. And I said, yes, but why the fund will work? Because we have still in a society which is in a reductionist, very polarized. So, but if you move from the governance of a market governance and hierarchy governance to a collaborative governance, then you will see that it will do also good. So I think the first thing is to be back to a living system, and the whale will give you the answer.
That's beautiful. We have to also maybe first apologize and approach with humility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Gemma, and I'm reporting back on behalf of our team, which included other Gemma, who's also our whale, as well as Flora, Florence, Philippe, and John. And so we addressed mainly that central question. And so we were thinking quite a lot about ocean governance. Of course, huge opportunity now this year. Very exciting that the High Seas Treaty was officially entered into force just over almost a week ago. And the first ever global ocean COP, as we know, is on the cards. So we're hearing different reports. Okay, is it? Great, thanks, that's good to know. So that gives us a year runway to make a good plan and use that as an opportunity to really put whales and the wider ecosystem in the center. We talked a lot about how whales are such an iconic and symbolic building block in the ocean, and they have impacts across the whole ecosystem, and we need holistic thinking to support whales. Then, really thinking from the whale's perspective, we need to make sure that the whales are in the center, and thinking really about what are the migratory patterns, reproduction, what are the different impacts on whales. Of course, there's lots of really good pockets of initiatives to stop whale strikes, but there needs to be uniformalized global processes of that. And just thinking more from the perspective of what causes least harm. So the example of deep sea mining came up, and there needs to be a whale and ocean nature-centric approach to really minimizing impacts. Ideally, of course, no deep sea mining at all. Then from a perspective of nature positive, there's a wider impact of halting and reversing nature loss in the ocean space. We talk about ocean positive, and that's a nice concept linking to our final point, which was around communications. We talked about the need to sensitize people, and how this beautiful film that you showed us, where we all felt we were actually diving and swimming with the whales, very moving, gave me goosebumps. How do we transmit that sense of connection and awe to people who, live far away from the ocean? It's hard enough to get people to care about forests, but the ocean can sometimes feel even further away, so communications need to be central. And I just would like to hand the mic to our whale in case you have anything, last points to add.
Oh, I don't know about that right now. I think I would really like you to think about what's causing the most harm to me and to prioritize that. I'm running out of food, and all my home is being encroached. And so it's a cry for help.
Okay, so thank you so much for that. So many different robust ideas. We're going to hand over to everyone, but if we can just keep it a little bit more short, because I know that there's quite a few sessions. Thank you.
Super short. Marco, I work with Gemma, Nature Positive Initiative. Actually, what came to mind is an opportunity. And the opportunity is twofold. First, to link whales to our daily life, because actually whales are a bit far away from most people's daily lives. And the second one, that there is right now a conversation about establishing one of the largest marine protected areas in the Southern Ocean, Antarctica Peninsula. And this is the place where whales, particularly humpbacks, go and feed in summer. Krill, massive overexploitation of krill. Krill goes into aquaculture for the fish we eat at home, the salmon on that table. And krill goes into pet food. It's not get crazy? And so making the connection about protecting the feeding grounds of whales, assuring their future, but at the same time also creating awareness how we are connected to whales in a, unfortunately, not very sustainable way today, I think could be an interesting opportunity to focus on.
Thank you, totally agree. And krill is definitely one of the interventions we're talking about, so thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone on this table?
Well, well, well. You guys.
We were thinking more about the actual things that can be done, and just a weird concept that creating ownership for companies for whales. Even if it's just a piece of paper says that this company X owns this and this whale, so you have a bit of a more sense of responsibility for that animal that you have. And then also link that to a insurance policy that if something happens to that whale, then, I don't know, there will be follow-ups.
Amazing, thank you.
Any whales in the room have a final message to send?
Yeah? Anyone want to say anything before? I think Gemma did a pretty good job at bringing the urgency in. Maybe we can just do one more slide. I'm not sure. One more? Perfect. So here in the QR code, you'll actually have access to a concept note, which is a much more robust document around the whale structure. And so we invite everyone here to download it. This, as you saw today, this is really a feedback session. This is really where we're starting to kind of bring people in to design these different aspects. And we'd love to invite you all to be part of that process if it calls to you. So here's an invitation. Feel free to reach out to Alexa or myself. And we just want to say thank you all so much for coming. And thank you, Stan, for hosting us this morning. And yeah, very grateful. And hopefully we'll have a chance to do something on behalf of the whales. And thank you, Jono, for all the beautiful photos and videos. Bye.